Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Gregg Riley, Charles Dillatore, and Ashley Buckhold dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, plus use our combined experience to tell you what it all means. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
There we go. We're live. Charles, you're signing on. Episode 126, The Lumber Word. We're going to kind of move it along. Gregg has a kite to catch tonight. He's going to go follow some of Matt's tracks from last week. Or close, crossover. Is there any crossover there at all, did we say?
Granada.
Granada.
Where are you going, Gregg?
I leave. Go headed to leave tonight for Barcelona. You go to Barcelona.
So
Barcelona,
a buddy of mine,
and then southwest Spain.
A buddy of mine just did that pilgrimage.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He did. Yeah, he walked it. He walked the back half because he met one of his buddies that already did the front half.
Yeah,
and he walked like 125 miles in 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you stay at the hostels along the way, or do you stay at the high end places?
No, I'm sure he stayed at a hostel. He's cheap, just like me.
I got you.
Well, don't say it's cheap. You use the word frugal. Sounds
budget
so
conscious.
More, frugal.
Thrifty.
That's better.
Yeah, so I wrote down a couple notes here. Let's go over the intro. We'll go over the intro, but first, I get a lot of calls every week from people that listen to us. I put now into the podcast summaries our email addresses so people can reach out to us, and also so you can probably get spammed quite a bit. And Charles, I apologize. I've been sending stuff to your other email. I don't know how that came up.
Yeah, I think I sent you one email one time and it probably auto-populates.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, you got it. We'll go ahead and change that up. But Matt, I don't know how much you want to share with us, or if you want to share, you actually have some really good feedback from people about basically that listen to the show. So provide us with what you can or feel comfortable talking about some of the stuff people have shared with you.
Just think that this show maybe has a little bit more depth to it than we realize sometimes. I come on here and I just talk a bunch of shit about the lumber market and think nobody's listening, but people are listening. So it's I guess I'm surprised at times. And so, we've done this together for a couple, 3 years now. Just for me, it would really, like Gregg talked about this previously, it was a good way to sound out my own thoughts about the market and get some feedback from other people in other markets. We can bounce different ideas off each other, and sometimes I'm right, but it feels like it's just a good, mental exercise every week to go through this and get host mindset. I'm not bringing in vessels to ball. I'm not in the yellow pine production or consumption business. And so this is a tool for me to learn. And I've always seen it that way. It's like we're just friends, but there's more to it than what I think. There's more people listening, decisions being made. There's, other people are either confirming or denying their own thoughts on the market based on this little podcast here, which surprises me, I guess. Sometimes you just don't think about the bigger, wider picture that's paying attention to what we say.
Yeah,
man, I don't get any phone calls.
Disclaimer on there, I just think it's good that we have the disclaimer.
I don't get any phone calls.
I talked to a guy I talked to a guy this week, Charles.
Why does nobody like you, Charles?
I don't know.
No, I talked to a guy.
You're like the fourth wheel.
I talked to a guy this week.
I like even numbers.
I talked to a guy this week that actually listened to our podcast for the first time last week on LinkedIn. He said he does say he gets email. He goes, I get emails from that Charles guy on the show, but I've never talked to him yet. So people hear you. People are listening to you. So I'll give you some feedback on that one. And I know, Matt, did you get any feedback on those cars from the show last week at all? Did anybody?
I had a couple different companies reach out to me that were quote unquote new customers, new potential customers, we're going through the process of figuring out what they can use and what they can't use. So that was a nice little bit of good feedback from what I said last week. So that was nice. And
so for everybody that
I
I
guess
give,
the one thing I'd say to the listeners is that, we love to get feedback and, positive, negative feedback. Like share that with us, because that's, we can make the show better. I mean, honestly, to Matt, you said it perfectly. I mean, hey, we do this for us. We don't do it for everybody else. We do it, because we're just a bunch of, lumber guys that want to talk about lumber. That's what my wife says.
and the interesting thing there is, to all the people that tell me that, yeah, we're going to still spend $15,000 to $20,000 going through, magazines and publications to do ads instead of, the way that the young and upcoming people do on podcasts and everything. Like, when I send out a number of what it costs and people say, yeah, we can't afford that, and then I see them in a magazine spending like 20 grand, we probably get better coverage than most of the other industry publications, some of them out there that actually advertise for people, in my opinion. So
this is a shameless plug for more advertising dollars, so we can upgrade the quality of the podcast for everybody. Is that what I heard? That's what I heard.
Maybe all of us can wear collared shirts then.
there we go.
So Greg can afford high-speed internet at home.
So we talked
So
about
it's not so delayed.
the one person out in Oregon that called me last week and told me that they had a couple truck of plywood stolen. And I said, I'm sorry to hear about that. Literally that day, we had a truck missing out of our reload in Chicago, and we found out it got caught up in a scam and was gone also. There's a lot of that stuff going around in our industry. And I know from the trucking side, Gregg jumped on it, and we got our trucking company to sign up for maybe we'll pitch them. Gregg, why don't you push them to promote it as somebody that vets all your trucking companies for you?
Yeah. So we use truckstop.com, Internet Truck Stop, and they have a carrier onboarding and surveillance service. It's pretty affordable from my perspective, but literally you no longer have to do any of the due diligence when you bring new, well, maybe I can get them to advertise, Ash. When you bring new carriers on, they've already vetted, they'll keep up with the insurance, the authority, and monitor it that way. So I just figured it's a no-brainer. I mean, if it saves me, I mean, this is more prevalent in stolen lately, apparently, from what so it seems like a pretty affordable solution. I'll shake them down for advertising when I talk to them, Ash.
Well, I mean, maybe people can reach out to you, to the guy that gave you the good deal on it, and you can hook them up with them.
Absolutely.
There you go. So I thought that was interesting. So market update. We were talking before you got on, Charles, a little bit. I mean, it feels like the market's caught in this perpetual state of confusion. It's neither going up nor down from what it feels like. It's what's it, Gregg? Just what's your thing? You always say sideways.
Sharply sideways. Sharply sideways.
Volatile and sideways.
We were actually talking about the differences. Matt and I have been amazed at how aggressive some mills have been with us this week in selling product. And I contrast that with futures being up another $10 today, being kind of an easy, if you want to call Western spruce 2x4s, what do you want to call them? 560 Chicago, and July's now 612. And then you throw, 2x6 is already a huge discount to 2x4. it's, I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, it makes me really wonder, it's like two different markets.
Well, Greg, since you're on it, I mean, look at I was listening to you picking up some stuff today, and I walked into the office today. I'm like, how much did you buy those for? So there's some mills. Let's pick an item: 2x4, 104, and 5/8 that are $20 above print, and there's some mills that are selling significantly below print on those items, right? And then there's some items like 2x4, 92, and 5/8 you can't find anywhere, and they're tight. And Matt, one of the things we hear
2x4 14s and 16s in spruce, very, very fluid, and everybody wants them. 10-footers, redheaded stepchildren. And I mean, it's just cheap. It's just cheap fiber. It's just cheap fiber.
No offense. No offense to all the gingers out there.
I mean, speaking of cheap fiber, let's talk about SYP. I mean,
no kidding.
Huh?
Well, hey, kudos to Charles. Charles, you said that 2x6 had stopped going down. It was one of the only things on print that had zeros across it yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, Southern Pond. Yeah,
great. Swami, what's next?
What is next?
I don't know that it's going anywhere, but it stopped the bleeding for a moment. I mean, they plugged a hole in the boat, but you got to get Southern Yellow Pine Mills to actually sell an order file longer than 7 to 10 days. And I think we've talked about that multiple times. 4-inch is still weak. 8-inch is kind of firmed up a little bit just because it got so cheap. 12-inch really hasn't done anything. It's kind of a conundrum. But if you look at print, you look at it and you compare the spreads between 4 and 6 inch
we made our
cross
prediction
zones.
Changes in 60 days. Did we mark all that down so you got it on the wall so we'll be able to pull it up?
We recorded it. It's on the video. Yeah, we got it.
That's a new way of taking notes.
Yeah. No, it's I have it, and I'll put those together so we have it.
We burned that up.
We need them on, get them up on the website so that we can see the prediction.
Charles, will these mills? So I keep seeing the one highlight I see. 4-inch east side keeps that $75 premium to that central or more, but as Greg, we pointed out, how much is 4-inch down since the expiration, the May expiration of the new contract? Like the 4-inch?
$100.
$100
at least. Yeah.
I mean, are we going to fall another $50 on 4-inch, Charles, or what? I mean, where are these guys?
Composite, you're probably going to see another $20 to $30, right? From a composite perspective, because if you look at east side 2x4 16s, cash market, you're low to mid fours, right? 420 to 445, depending on where it is, what it is, how quick you need it, et cetera. And that's on the east side. Central, different story. And what I was referencing was if you look at print and you look at the spreads between 4 and 6-inch and west and central, those are actually healthy spreads. I think the spread between them is $20, right? Now, if you look at 6-inch on the east side, it went down to central
between
and west.
4 and 6-inch.
4 and 6-inch. Think about this as it settles.
4 and 6-inch or 4-inch?
4 and 6-inch. If you go
right, the spread right now is 116 on the west side, 102 in the central, and 155 on the east side.
Okay, so my point is that if you look at the spreads on the east side and how they've settled in the west and the central at realistic levels, and 6-inch is trading like in kind at a $30 premium on the east side to basically everything else, right? 4-inch has got some hot air in it, dramatically on the east side. Yeah, I mean, you're talking, 16s on a cash basis, like I said, low to mid fours on the east side, and $400 in the central. So I mean, you've got on a print basis, you got $100 of hot air.
Dude, I'm selling number 3 for more than Yellow Pine number 2, and it's it sells. It's not like I just sit there and sell one truck every week or two. Stuff is pretty liquid. I don't understand how Yellow Pine 2x4 has fallen this far this fast. Do people just stop using it in the summertime or something? It's like, it was up 100, it was up 200 at one point, like 45, 60 days ago. It was up quite a bit. and then it's just gone into free fall for some reason. Meanwhile, spruce is stabilized. You know, you can see the boards up a little bit here. The cash prices have stabilized. The Hemfer 2x4 market is stabilized. I mean, some of the prices we were trading at 60 days ago, low 500s, Chicago on 2x4 and 2x6. Now, 2x4 in spruce and Hemfer is 550 to 580 Chicago, depending on who you talk to and what kind of a tally. And there's traction. Like, I mean, you can sell more than one car a day at those types of prices. It's not going away, but it's definitely stable. Meanwhile, yellow pine 2x4 just has gone below number 3 spruce. And I don't get it.
Hey,
well,
Matt,
it's a truck market, right? If you look at somebody that's buying for inventory into Illinois, right? How long does it take a North American species to get to Chicago via rail? I have no idea, so I'm legitimately asking.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. So if I buy today and I have to plan, say, 30 days in advance, barring any interruptions, the mill is going to see more order flow faster than a Southern Yellow Pine mill is. So your order flow is going to be lagged by an immediate need in the South versus what y'all see. And that's evident because typically when car species, we'll call them, fall to a point that's a budgetary buy or an investment level and pine kind of follows, they always rebound first because your order flow comes faster because they have to plan ahead. Whereas Southern Yellow Pine, if I'm in Atlanta, I can throw a rock and hit 15 sawmills, right? Oh, you don't have it this Thursday, you have it next Wednesday. Okay, cool. I'll buy 3 trucks. That'll carry me for the next week and a half, right?
So that means that they must have made a lot of 2x4.
Well,
they
some
overburdened the 2x4 demand.
It was such a big premium and
they had
price.
to.
Yeah.
I think the thing that amazes me is how much what's happening now is mirroring last year. Now, we just got, if you remember last year, we came back from Montreal in April, and the market's going to sell off. It's going to bottom out. And, we talked for like 6-8 weeks that, summer shutdowns, the market's going to bottom out. And it just kept going until like really late July, didn't it? I mean, it was
Late
July.
It was middle August before we saw.
Okay. It bottomed out in mid-July, but you really didn't see any price appreciation mid-August. So we got the news today that on the 24th, they're going to announce the rate and the date of the AD, and it's going to go from 7% to 20% approximately. And that they're splitting the dates on the AD and the CVD. So what we're guessing is that the August 7th is going to be the date for the AD. So, another 13% hit to the current prices on spruce. And then that'll be followed by, 15 to 20%, cent increase in the
CVD
countervailing duty in September.
Yeah.
And
that has nothing to do with Section 232 either. This is already baked in the cake.
Matt, we were in Montreal. I said 232, poo-poo.
I'm just saying that will come up because we don't want people to get those two things confused with each other. What Greg's talking about is a long-term agreement that we've already made that was spawned by the lawsuits back in the 2005 to 2010 timeframe. And then what other people will bring up Section 232 and Trump tariffs and whatnot. That's all just more recent noise that's been kind of chattered about since November, since the election, that may or may not come true at any given time. And we don't know, right? That's unknown, as Gregg likes to talk about.
So just real quick, Matt, one question on U.S. species. I know one thing that we've been running into all the way out on the East Coast against like 2x4, 104, and 5A spruce is we're running into hem fir. You've heard that a few times, Gregg, right?
It's actually more on 8-foot than on 9-foot, I think.
So it could be 8-footers.
You guys were talking earlier about how 8-footers are hard to find in the East and they're not hard to find out West. And so guys are probably switching over to ESLP, hem fir, Doug fir. And
I think that's
9-footers over
sense.
here. have all kind of stabilized around one price. So like 9-footers and in both the East and the West, no matter what species you're talking about, they all kind of trade at the same price on a delivered basis to Atlanta or Texas or Missouri.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter which region, but the 8-footers out here are for sure cheaper than what you can find in the East if they're that tight from what you described.
Did you know that Southern Yellow Pine futures launched on the CME this year? These cash-settled contracts use Fast Market's trusted Southern Yellow Pine price assessment as their benchmark. Built on the strength of the Random Lengths new daily Southern Yellow Pine price assessment, this contract helps you mitigate risk and seize new opportunities in the market. Whether you're planning your next move or trading physical products, this tool offers a streamlined solution to meet your needs. Fast Market's Random Lengths price assessments are derived from verified price inputs collected via online submission forms, authenticated physical documentation, and structured interactions with buyers and sellers across the supply chain. All data is evaluated within Fast Market's proprietary assessment platform in strict accordance with our published methodologies. Each assessment undergoes a rigorous 3-level human review and approval process prior to publication. Key benchmark commodities are subject to independent third-party audits to ensure alignment with Fast Market's methodologies and compliance with IOSCO principles for price reporting agencies. It's data you can trust, paired with innovation that works for you. Stay informed and stay ahead. Head to fastmarkets.com/lumbertalk to find out more.
So another interesting thing I heard this week, talking to a mill up in Quebec, they said for the past month, 80% of their wood's been staying in Canada and 20% in the U.S. It's normally not like that because... So I said, hey, why is it like that? And they said their top U.S. speculative trading houses and customers are not speculating on anything right now, or very little. And I think that's why certain mills we're seeing big lists from, because people aren't having those extra ones. They're just buying, he said, to back. And are you guys, I mean, obviously that's what price is telling us also, right? So like Gregg, you said, the price of at a couple mills, they can lose money for a short period of time, but everybody can't lose money for a long period of time, correct?
I don't think anybody can lose money forever. I don't know.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm just saying. So here's
unless it's the government.
The two things that I keep looking at that like is, okay, when will pine producers cry uncle? I mean, Charles went through, very adeptly last week, cost of fiber. And, we can all see at the current prices that pine mills are not making money at today's prices. Not when you're getting, mid 200s on 2x6 and, and et cetera, et cetera. So, when will pine mills cry uncle, and will we see some production curtailment across the summer there? And then my big one is, okay, we kept talking about demand, flat. I got a big issue right now. Ash and I got a little heated this morning. We were fired up. When I got them sending ICE agents to go post up at Home Depot to reel in all of the day laborers. Unless I'm missing something, those people are not criminals. They're not out protesting. They're working. Those people are working. And, what's going to happen as we move forward here? And, all of a sudden job sites don't have enough guys swinging hammers. There's no robots right now that are doing that. I'm just, not going to help repair and remodeling for Depot and Lowe's if they don't have day laborers that can do the work. Ashley, please share your counterpoint with the group, if you like.
Yeah, I don't see the upside in doing that. I don't know how that works for the brand.
Yeah.
I see.
I mean,
I see.
I'm just like, I say, hey, I'm all about, people that came here, illegally, criminals that aren't working, that are out the system. But what about all the hardworking people? What about all the hardworking people that we should be figuring out a way to how do we assimilate them? I mean, if you're in LA and you're waving some other country flag, burning the US flag, you know what? Get that out, right? You can't get them out of here fast enough for me.
Yeah.
But the guy that's been here for years working hard, I want to figure out a way to keep him.
Yeah,
Okay?
I don't think most. I honestly don't
I
think.
don't know. I may have alienated some of our listeners right there. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I doubt it. I don't think most people would disagree with what you just said. I mean,
Thank you.
I think that's a pretty
Matt.
commonsensical position, really. I mean, if you want to come here and assimilate and be an American and be part of this great melting pot that we were taught that this place was when I was a kid, then great. My brother-in-law is an illegal alien from Juarez, Mexico. He's a now naturalized citizen, but he spent 40 years here as an illegal alien. I got no problem with anyone that wants to come here and contribute and be part of this amazing experiment that we have, right? This is a pretty unique place. But if you don't want to be here and you don't like our laws and you don't like our flag, then sorry. Go somewhere else. Go back home. Don't be here. If it's not good enough for you, go find a better place.
Charles is like the American dream right here. We got
so him. I agree with both of your standpoints. If you come over here and you assimilate and you do the right things and you work, right, and you bring value to society, you have every right to have first option to become a citizen, right? But I think things got so extreme and so in excess, right, from what's happened over the past 5 years, that it's very difficult to reestablish that line. And I say that from a first generation, right? My father came over from Cuba, first generation born in America, and they did everything the right way, right? I mean, wet foot, dry foot was a thing, had to get a green card, like the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So I agree. If you want to bring value and you want to be an active member of society, you should have that right to become that, right? But if we have a 5 to 8 year period to where it was just a melee and we had open borders and nobody was tracking anything, and next thing you know, we have all this crime resulting from it and obvious disrespect to America as a whole, you kind of got to go from one extreme to the other and then step back and reevaluate to reestablish that line, right?
Yeah.
And I think anybody that has done it the right way, such as your brother-in-law, Matt, would probably look at it the same way because he went through certain steps to get to where he's at, right? And if you're willing to do that, you're more than welcome. But if you want to do the alternative.
Yeah, it's funny. What's interesting, Charles, is that if you look at Trump's approval ratings with different groups of people, with Mexican men, he has a 63% approval rating. Talk about a blow up in your face bad idea to if you thought you were going to convert all these Mexican men into diehard Democrat voters for the rest of their lives, you miscalculated by a factor of, 63%.
No doubt, right?
I don't think they really understand Mexican men. My brother-in-law he's Mexican through and through, but he's an American, and and he's as conservative of a family man as I've ever met. I don't know if the Republican Party has ever thought about a welcome wagon approach, but maybe they should get on it. I don't even want to talk about this stuff anymore because it kind of is irrelevant, but good sidebar. But yeah, no.
Well, it definitely could have an impact on what we do, though. I mean, to kind of bring it full circle, it could have an impact on consumption. But I think there's an opportunity for, panelization, which historically is a big deal in the PNW in the Northeast because of unionized labor, for that to come down to the Southeast. And I think that's we kind of got off track, but I think that's kind of where the point is going. Right?
I think that those types of issues, the labor issues, always resolve themselves. We had issues during the pandemic trying to get people to work sawmills. It didn't matter what nationality they were. We were just having trouble
Same.
finding people that would work,
Yeah.
Same.
And so we figured that out. Eventually those labor things, there'll be a disruption and we'll go through a period of just problems, but it'll get resolved. And usually it just gets resolved with better working conditions and better pay, right? That's kind of what solves that problem. But I do want to talk about something that's sort of related to this, which is the overall economy from the top down. We're just one part of a big, big multi-trillion-dollar economy here. And there's some indicator better, right? Better than some people expected. Core inflation was 0.1% last month. And if you look at some of the building stocks, our buddy Sig called in. I was talking to him the other day, and he pointed out that the building stocks were up 4 or 5% here recently. Thinks that the big money at Wall Street is bullish on the future of housing and construction. At what point are rates going to fall, or is the general public going to just accept 7% mortgage rates and just get on with their lives? And you see an increase in demand in housing, and that's getting to here with all these ideas is we might have a better second half of the year than what I've been thinking. We're just stuck, but maybe we aren't. Maybe things are going to get 10% better on the demand side. Thoughts?
We only need them to get like percent better to have a significant impact on the market.
Yeah, I mean, so like to add to years ago when I was being negative on the economy, I kept telling Greg, I'm going to wait for housing prices to come down before I buy anything. And he's like, just buy a house and quit like waiting on it. And I did, and the market was fine. It goes down, it goes back up. But, markets climb the wall of worry, right? And like, so there's one thing I've seen on X and a couple other social media things why I sometimes hate looking at them, because it's like you're jumping into this non-ending cesspool of just terrible stuff. So when people talk about housing on there, there's this whole faction in there that basically think all boomers should be kicked out of their homes and they're the ones responsible for the high value of homes. And I'm like, it's the craziest thing I ever hear. Like, it's not taking any personal responsibility for anything. And I think it's really an asinine comment and an asinine thing to look at like that. If that's pointing the blame because you can't afford
My
something at
suggestion
another
is
group.
to stay off those social media sites.
Yeah, no doubt. Because I mean, look at, I think the economy is getting better, and I think it will get better. And I mean, what other?
I'm gonna take the counterpoint to all of that and say, from the producer standpoint, they should look at where we are right now and assume that it's not going to get any better and plan accordingly. And I'm kind of working under the I'm assuming that, from a market position, it's not going to get any better. This is as good as it's going to get. And so I should build my business around that, because if it is better, that's great. That's absolutely fine. The adjustment to that gets taken care of. The problem is if I think things are going to get better and I plan for that and I'm disappointed, that's my worst outcome. And that's what I want to guard against, that really bad outcome, which is having hope in one hand and shit in the other and putting them together.
Yeah.
Because what I end up with.
That's a good point.
You're going to go to Europe for a couple of weeks and you'll come back with a different mindset. Trust me on that one. And
only positive I can share is that the market usually rallies when I'm out of the office. So, you're welcome. I'll just say you're welcome right now.
Sometimes just being gone for a week or two is good to just sort of reset your brain and the way you're thinking about things. It certainly didn't hurt me to be gone for a couple weeks and then come back and take a fresh look at it with some new eyes. And what I can tell you is, since I've been back, and then I'm probably going to wrap it up after this, but since I've been back, I have more mills calling me than customers. And until that changes to where I have more customers calling me than mills, I'm just going to feel like There's no reason for me to speculate. Ashley, you talked about mills talking about no speculation. Well, there's absolutely not much reason for me to speculate. There's, there's good orders, there's great orders, and then there's bad orders. And all I want is if I can just find enough good orders each day to just and throw in an occasional great order, I'm happy. Hitting singles and doubles right now is all I can expect. Don't want and not trying to hit the home runs. I think that is a mistake in thinking. And until something changes, like I said last week, I'm just going to let the market's going to have to lead me to wherever we're going. I don't think we're going to see what we saw last year, where we went down an extra $100 after Gregg called the bottom. We just languish
Damn, Gregg.
Oh,
yeah, I'm sticking the knife in.
I own it. I own it.
Shots fired.
Look, I'm
happy I'm not the only one
I'm just messing around here. I don't think there is. I don't think there's $100 I don't think there's $100 to give up right now. Right? We don't have the same issues right now that we had last year at this time. I think people's inventories are well in check. There's not this massive glut of euro laying around. The cheapest species in North America isn't euro, it's yellow pine. And we're talking about curtailment pricing, right? So we've got a tax regime coming, or a tariff thing coming in Canada that's going to be a problem. It's going to cost them 20 to 25% more to ship their lumber across this into our state. It just feel like these are all kind of at least neutral things, certainly not negative things in terms of pricing power going forward. But until I see a change in demand, then there's no reason to speculate, right?
All right,
that's
so Matt,
the bottom line.
Matt, Charles, and Gregg, I'm going to throw a statement out there, and each one of you give me your thoughts on it. I think 80% of the market, mills and users, think the price of lumber on all species is going to be significantly higher in September. And I don't know. They're not speculatively buying anything. And I've heard that even some of the big retailers are padding 20% on any business 3 months out, except for one big retailer that's taking it all and holding it and putting inventory in the yard. What are your thoughts to that? Am I wrong thinking that 80% of the market thinks the price is going higher?
I don't know. I haven't talked to my customers about what their expectations are going into the. I see it with their behavior. Looking for a whole bunch of rail cars of the things that I'm good at, then I'd know that they thought something was going to happen, and that's not happening.
Yeah, no, Matt, you bring up a perfect point. Is the market's saying that no, that's not the case. If they thought it, number one, mills wouldn't be calling Matt and I and looking, to discount stuff, and we would be substantially busier because guys would be aggressively looking to build inventory. And I see nobody looking to build inventory. I see continued hand-to-mouth buying. The occasional guy, like you said, Ash, is like, hey, we're going to buy out these jobs because we took them cheap and we want to cover it. But no, I think 80% of the market thinks that the market's flat to down right here. Mills don't discount, and how do you think that if you're selling yellow pine 2x6s at $250 and, you're not acting like you think the prices are going higher, because otherwise you'd be stacking it, till you can't see the sun anymore.
Yeah. And then but the point is the Southern pine guys can't stack, and they just don't have the resources or the places to put it. It's not something you stack.
You can go rent a warehouse and pile in a couple million feet of 2x6.
I've been
some phone numbers
for that. Gregg told me to stay in my lane on
Matt
that
is spicy today.
Yeah,
I love it.
I just can't believe
any follow. So Gregg, you'll be
print on yellow pine. It all starts with a 2. I'm like, huh?
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. Gregg, so you won't be with us next week?
I'm out for the next 2 weeks. I'll be back with you guys on July 2nd, but I'm going to look forward to I'll look forward to listening. I'll be looking forward to listening from abroad. All
right, everybody. Charles, Matt, Gregg, appreciate it. Let's let's see what we can do today and gather some more data for next week.
Sounds good,
Thanks,
fellas.
guys. Take
Guys,
care.
Thank you.
Happy
Got
trading.
it. Fun.
Bye,
Have fun,
guys.
Greg.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.